In 1905, the British government partitioned the province of Bengal. The resulting backlash sparked the Swadeshi movement, a massive political agitation aimed at boycotting British goods. To understand the sheer scale of the crowds, look at this photograph of a Thanksgiving prayer gathering in Dhaka from that exact period. Against this backdrop of mass protest, the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore wrote The Home and the World. But instead of a sweeping historical epic, he compressed the political crisis of Bengal into an intimate love triangle. On one side is Nikhil, a moderate landowner. On the other, Sandeep, a fiery radical. Caught between them is Bimala, Nikhil's wife. Tagore built his novel using a specific structural trick. He wrote the book as 3 overlapping first-person testimonies. Each character narrates their own chapters, but their versions of events never fully align. This leaves the reader acting as a jury member. So what happens when a filmmaker adapts this story and removes their inner monologues? The medium defines what we walk away with. Looking at how Tagore built his prose and how Ray staged his scenes reveals where the two versions find their truth. In Tagore's prose, word choice reveals the character's hidden motives. Nikhil hides behind capitalized abstract nouns like freedom and truth. Sandeep uses visceral, predatory verbs, describing his political faction as having teeth and nails, ready to grab and tear. Then there is Bimala. While she appears to be finding her own voice, her internal thoughts lack true agency. When she describes her devotion to her husband, she relies entirely on the traditional, Victorian-influenced vocabulary of ideal Hindu wifehood. She repeats a rehearsed cultural script rather than expressing spontaneous feelings. Look at this historical photograph of a protest sign. It captures the very real public friction over the Swadeshi boycott at the time. Tagore weaves this exact friction into the novel's central irony. The characters loudly demand the destruction of foreign goods in the streets, while safely hoarding fine British-loomed luxury saris inside the safety of their private quarters. Language in the novel operates as a smokescreen. The characters use high-minded political vocabulary to mask their own ideological failures and selfish desires. In 1984, filmmaker Satyajit Ray adapted the novel for the screen, and he immediately faced a narrative problem. A film cannot easily cycle through 3 conflicting voiceovers without deeply confusing its audience. Ray had to find a different way to show us who these people really were. His first solution was architectural. Notice the strict division of space in this traditional Bengali courtyard. Ray takes Bimala's psychological boundaries and converts them into physical space. He repeatedly frames her within the specific corridors that separate the secluded women's quarters from the outer, male-dominated world of politics. His second translation targets Nikhil. On the page, Nikhil's self-justifying text makes him sound entirely reasonable. On screen, the camera strips away that protection. Watching an actor's performance exposes the uncomfortable, controlling doubt on Nikhil's face when he pushes his wife toward Sandeep's, a contradiction his written words successfully hid. Next, Ray tackles Sandeep's rhetoric. In the book, the fire of Sandeep's speeches is abstract and metaphorical. The film replaces that metaphor with the literal, terrifying heat of a mob. Watching a roaring bonfire illuminate a chaotic, aggressive nighttime crowd makes the danger of mass political excitement immediately physical. Finally, Ray compensates for the loss of Bimala's internal monologue by tracking her emotional arc through her wardrobe. Without a voiceover to explain her changing loyalties, we watch her shift from highly ornate embroidered silks to the plain white cotton of a widow. Cinema forces the implicit lies of a text into explicit physical reality. By removing their inner thoughts, Ray's camera strips the characters of their rhetorical armor, forcing the audience to judge them entirely by their actions. This brings us to the final structural divergence between the two mediums. Tagore ends his novel in ambiguity. Nikhil is gravely injured in a riot, and the book closes before we know if he survives, keeping the political debate suspended. Ray makes a radical departure. He opens his film with Bimala already in mourning, revealing the ending in the very first frame. This timeline shift changes the story's emotional core. It takes a work of political suspense, where we wonder how these ideologies will clash, and turns it into a classical tragedy driven by inevitability. We aren't watching to see what happens, we watch to see how fate closes in. An adaptation is never a neutral transfer of plot. By resolving the ambiguities Tagore left open on the page, Satyajit Ray utilized the objective tools of cinema to judge the historical failure of the nationalist project. He closed the ideological loop that the novel had left open.